Und die neue XGT Säbelsäge wurde von Mr. Makita himself, nämlich Tools and Stuff, getestet.
G'day girls and boys, it's that time again. What new Makita tools are coming up? Well, coming up shortly I'll be reviewing the X-Lock grinders here on the 40 volt system. If there's anything you want to see me do with those, then let me know down in the comments. Also, a few days ago you may or may not have seen my attachment video for the CS003G blower. In the video I go through every one of the attachments that you can buy separately to go with your blower, and that video will be up here in the top corner and down in the description also. In the last update video we looked at the CW003G cooler warmer. That is the new 7 litre version. The original version, the CW001G, you will recall is a 20 litre cooler. And I pondered in that video, what happened to the CW002G? Well, now we know. It is a 50 litre cooler, warmer. Just think about that. I think the thing weighs about 25 kgs, and if you put 50 litres of water in that 50 litre compartment, that's another 50 kgs. That's 75 kgs without the batteries. This isn't the sort of thing you're just going to lug to work each day. This is, I don't know what you use this for, big parties or big workplaces I suppose. You could keep a lot of drinks chilled on site. You can fit 15 2-litre bottles in it. Or you could put in about 50 500ml bottles, so you're looking at 50 to 60 stubbies as well. And I'm guessing somewhere in the region of 60 to 80 cans. Might be quite good for Bathurst, boys. I don't have any run times for you. I imagine it may not be too dissimilar to the CW001G, the 20 litre version, because once something's gotten down to temperature, it can stay and hold at that temperature quite easily without using much battery power. Just like previous models, you can run it on 40 volt, 18 volt, AC power, or a cigarette lighter. And it cools all the way down, or should I say freezes all the way down to minus 18 degrees Celsius or 0 Fahrenheit. And it'll go up to 60 degrees Celsius or 140 Fahrenheit. The only other obvious differences between the previous two models is that it has a drain plug and a small little tray that you can move around inside, so you can have multiple layers of things cooling or warming. When I did my review of this little 5 litre sprayer, many of you wanted a backpack sprayer. Well, you're in luck, because they have just announced 6 new backpack sprayers. That's right, a 7 litre, a 10 litre and a 15 litre in the 18 volt line, and a 7, 10 and 15 litre in the 12 volt line. So plenty of options there for backpack spraying now. There's multiple different sprayer head attachments. I'm not sure if they come with the tool, they're probably add-ons. But this one here you can see came with 2, which is kind of good, but they both sort of spray straight forward, so it's not all that helpful. It's not really the right direction on how you want things. But I see the new one has one going forward and then one coming down on an angle like that, which is a much better system in my opinion. Run time's pretty good on these things. On an 18 volt 5 amp hour battery, you'll get around 3 hours or so. Sticking with backpacks, next up we have a backpack blower. According to Makita, this is equivalent to a 50cc petrol version, and it's battery, but it runs on the PDC1200 battery pack. That clips on the back, so it's not using your 40 volt XGT or your 18 volt batteries. It is the dedicated backpack style battery. And that'll give you around 45 minutes of blowing on full whack, or on the lowest setting you'll get around 9 hours. And it is IPX4 rated. Now she's not a light unit, coming in at 16 kgs, that is including the PDC1200 battery pack. It's good to see more tools being aimed towards professional users that need that extended runtime and power. Next up we have a new Rebar Tyre, the TR181D, which in most of the world will be the DTR181. In looks it is very similar to the previous model, but it has increased capacity and better tying strength supposedly, and I think you can set the amount of laps that you want the wire to go around between 2, 3 and 4. It doesn't look like the patents that Makita have been putting out. Maybe the patents were to try and throw other manufacturers off, or maybe there is still another Rebar Tyre coming in the future. And you'll get around 5,000 ties with a 5 amp hour battery, so you're not going to have to change your battery too often. The previous model that I reviewed could tie together 2 16mm diameter lengths of rebar, whereas this new one boasts much greater numbers. You can do 22 by 22, You can even do 35 by 12. There's quite a lot of scope for much larger ties with this new tool. Maybe we'll get to give it a test one day and see how it compares to the previous model. Next up, one that I like the look of, the CS003G 40 volt 125mm cold cutting saw. As you can see, it collects all the chips in the top, a bit like the previous 18 volt models. This is actually smaller than the 18 volt versions, but because it's 125mm, I'm thinking it may only be released in Japan, unfortunately. A lot of markets are not going to bring in this tool. It seems a lot of the Western Makita regions don't like to bring in the 125mm saws for some reason. And blades in the Western countries are also very hard to find. But not only is this a saw that can cut metal down to 46mm, it is also a wood saw. That's right, you can turn this into a standard circular saw just by swapping out the blade and swapping out the dust cover. Now you have an almost dustless circular saw for cutting timber. The downside of that though is that because it's a metal cutting saw primarily, it doesn't have a beveling base, so you can't do any bevel cuts with this thing in the wood mode. But with such a small saw, when you bevel, you don't get very deep cuts anyway. I'm guessing that the wood dust collector that you swap out is an optional accessory. May not be if you buy the tool in Japan. I'll have a look into that for future information, but I'm guessing it's probably an optional extra. Its RPM is 3,900 and its weight is around 2.9 kgs. It's not as snazzy as the CS002G, review down in the description, but it would be nice to get a cold cutting saw that is a bit smaller than this one. This is quite a big hefty beast, and often you just want to cut sheet metal or something small. You don't need that big depth of cut, so this new CS003G might be quite cool. I'm gonna have to look into that one a little bit more. And last up, I have an image of the new bike. One of the watchers of the channel sent this in to me. Cheers for that. They shall remain nameless. But the new bike, the By002G, will have a 250 watt rear motor and run on 1 XGT battery. It's got 700mm diameter wheels, which is much better than the previous 18x2 model, which looked like a bit of a toy, folded up, and yeah, wasn't something I'd want to ride around on. But this new one is somewhat more respectable looking. It has 3 levels of power assist up to a maximum of 25 kilometers an hour, 9 mechanical speeds, hydraulic disc brake, aluminium frame, front fork with suspension, and you can even get an attachment to click your Mac packs on the back. That is another Makita update done and dusted. There'll no doubt be another one in another couple of weeks, because Makita have been pumping out a lot of tools over the last couple of years, and I'm sure it would have been even quicker if it wasn't for that nasty bug going about. Anyway, if you want to see some of the tools you've just heard about reviewed, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because there's a good chance I'll be reviewing them sometime in the future once I can get my hands on them. And of course, don't forget grinders coming up, the blower one from the other day, and there's a ton more Makita 40 volt stuff on the way to be reviewed. So make sure you subscribe, like, all that stuff, and I'll see you on another one real soon. That looks like a pretty good amount to test what I need to test. Hope I don't have to walk too far with this shit.